Samantha from Summer Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you how to create an easy but effective Mokume Gane trinket dish. Now, the colours that we're going to start off with to create the Mokume Gane are all Prima colours. You can use any brand of polymer clay that you want, but I'm using Prima. This is white, cobalt and ultramarine blue. I then also have a piece of black off to the side, but I am going to use that later on. Not going to use it for the main part of the Mokume Gane. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my Skinner Blend triangles and I'm going to use that to cut out two pieces of each colour. Each colour was rolled out on the thickest setting of my pasta machine. And this is one of the cutters that I have on my Etsy store, Summer Design. There is a link in the description to this cutter and a number of the tools that I use in today's tutorial if you are interested. But just cut out two triangles from each colour and then stack those triangles on top of each other, and that's going to give enough clay for the Skinner Blend. Okay. And it's simple as picking up each one and placing them down on top of each other. Then you're going to take the white first, then the cobalt because it's the lighter of the two blues, and then the ultramarine, and you're going to pop them together like so, and then just press the sides of each triangle together so that the blend sits together. Then just trim each side of the triangles and flip them around to get a more rectangular shape. And then you're going to run that through the pasta machine a number of times to get a Skinner Blend. You can also do it by hand, and it's the exact same way to do it by hand as you would if you're using a pasta machine, where you just roll the colours out and then you fold it so that it's the same colour on either side. Don't fold it this way where you can see that you have two colours on that fold. I have done detailed Skinner Blend tutorials before, so I'm just going over the very bare basics there. But basically you'll just keep rolling the same direction, folding, rolling again, and continue until you have a smooth gradient between each of the colours. And this is the result. Then once you've done that, just fold it again, and what we're going to do is we're going to get this into a symmetrical long rectangle shape. So on the areas where it's a little thicker, just give it a stretch and press. And what the goal is to then roll it out from either the white or the ultramarine blue end and stretch the whole blend out. Okay, and you want to run that out down to the thinnest setting of your pasta machine, creating this really long blend. Then start from either the white or the ultramarine side and take that and just start folding it like so. And this is going to reduce the blend back down, and it's going to create a Skinner Blend plug. But it should end up with a more smooth gradient than what we would have had otherwise, and the blend will also be much shorter than before. This is another one where I've also done a detailed tutorial on it, so if you're interested, it is on the YouTube channel. Just search up Skinner Blend plug and it will come up. It's also in my Getting Started course on YouTube, again free, and in a playlist if you want to have a look there. It's one of the few techniques shown there. But just continue folding up the entire length of the blend, like so. Okay, and this is what you should end up with. Then just take those sides and just press down on them to even it out into a rectangle so that it's nice and even. Okay, and then what I want to do is I want to flatten this down, the Skinner Blend part that is, just by taking that and squishing it. You can also use your roller to kind of get that reduced down. and I want to cut it in half and stack it again so that I have a double blend. So just give it a roll in all directions, flipping it so that it doesn't distort too much, and you get a nice even reduction of the blend the whole way. Okay, and at this point it would also work for the Mokume Gane. It's just depending on which end you decided to press the Mokume Gane in and then shave, the bottom colour probably would not show up. So that's why I'm double stacking it, because I will then be able to have all of the colour show up. Then I'm just going to make sure that it's a somewhat rectangular shape, just along these edges anyway. I'm going to cut that in half, and I am going to stack it like so. Okay, and then just press along those edges so that both layers meet up evenly, like so. Okay, then I'm going to just press it back into a rectangle shape and then reduce it down to about the same thickness as what I had it before. And actually, before I do that, let me just even that out, and I'm going to bring over that black from earlier. This I'm going to roll out on the thinnest setting of my pasta machine, and I'm going to stack that on top of this before I reduce it. Okay, and I'm going to stack it on the white side. Doesn't really matter which side, it's just that depending on the result of the Mokume Gane you want, you can decide whether you're going to be cutting from the white or the ultramarine blue side. Then trim away the extra black. And the reason you do this before reducing it back down is because you'll reduce the black with the clay and therefore make it even thinner, which is something that I want. Okay. There we go, and that should just about do. Just going to fold that over the edges, make sure that it's stuck on. And now I'm going to reduce that down to about the thickness of my thickest setting, which is roughly, I'd say about 2 millimeters thick. Okay, and that should just about do. And I know that because I'm checking with the cutter size that I'm going to use for the Trinket dish. It needs to just about fit that. Then I've got a piece of black, also again run out to about the same thickness as the Mokume Gane, that being the thickest setting of my pasta machine. And I'm going to stack that on top. And this shouldn't appear in the Mokume Gane, this is just going to be the back of the dish, and will give a little more room to work with when working with the Mokume Gane. And just will make it more comfortable to work with. The thicker the clay, the easier it is to texture it and such. Go just trim away the extra clay. Okay, and then the very last thing I want to do, now that I'm about to texture it, is I'm going to apply some gold leaf. Now if you do apply the gold leaf, it's only going to show up in the indented areas of the texture, so there's not going to be a lot of metal leaf showing. So if you don't want to use this for that because you feel like there's too much getting wasted, then just bear that in mind when you are working with it in terms of Mokume Gane. It does add a nice sparkle, and I do like to use it, but you do end up not using a lot of it. Okay, and I do that as the last step because then I can have a nice solid piece of metal leaf that hasn't been crackled at all. I'm just going to trim away that extra metal leaf, put that to the side. Alright, and then I'm ready to apply the texture stamp. I'm going to be using this cute little koi fish texture stamp. It's one of the new ones that I've made on my Etsy store. And I'm going to take this, and I'm not going to need to apply any kind of stick proof because essentially the metal leaf acts like that. Bear in mind that it might stick to the stamp. I'm just burnishing down the metal leaf. So if you don't want it to stick to the stamp, just keep that in mind. I'm just going to apply that on top. Then I'm just going to use a little baby wipe Now I'm going to stand up and I'm going to press from one end of the stamp to the other. You could use your roller to do this as well. The reason for it is to push air bubbles out rather than trapping them during the texturing process. Okay, and then once you've done that, then you can go in and really give it a press. If you're using a roller, you do want to do it in one clean sweep because it tends to pick up the clay and lay it back down, creating kind of a ghost image. Whereas if you use your hands, you have a bit more control and can go in and press a couple of times to make sure that you have a nice, clean, firm image. And that will also leave a matte finish on the back. And you can see there how it looks. There aren't any air bubbles. Okay, and I'm just going to place that down. Make sure that it sticks to the tile, because that way it will make making the Mokume Gane easier, or shaving it anyway. So before you take it out of the texture stamp, just press it to your tile. Then lift it up, and not too much of the leaf should stick. You can just run that under a sink of water and give it a scrub with a toothbrush. And the last thing before I can reveal how the image looks is to just trim away the extra clay, because that gets in the way when you're trying to shave the Mokume Gane and can make you misjudge how deep your blade is going. Then grab a thin, flexible tissue blade. Let's go remove that. And now we're ready to begin. Okay, and you want to be gentle when you're doing this. Just shave along the top part of the texture. You can always go a bit deeper if you want, but you can't really fix it if you go too deep with the blade. So just go slowly and gently. And also, before I continue, these look fantastic. So grab a piece of just plain old printing paper and have that to the side, and just pop these little scrap pieces down onto there so that you can save them and then use them for other projects. Because if they all stick together or are on the tile, it can be a little difficult to use them. Placing them on the paper means that they're much easier to just kind of grab and work with. Okay, so just have that there, and every once in a while give the blade a clean, because it will get sticky with use. And then go in and take another slice, place that down, go in, take another slice, and just repeat for the entire piece of Mokume Gane. And again, go shallower than you think you need to go, because you can always go back over a spot and make it a little deeper. Also, bear in mind that you can use any texture stamp you want for this. I'm using the koi fish one, but any somewhat deep texture stamp will work. You don't want a fine texture stamp, because that will make this part over here a fair bit more tricky, because you'll be working with a shallower texture. But yeah, this is something that you can do with any texture stamp you want. Okay, and there we go. That's how it looks once I've shaved the whole thing. The little extra pieces are off to the side, and the next step is to just grab a piece of paper and just give this a burnish to flatten out the pattern completely. Okay, and there we go. Then I'm just going to grab my roller and I'm going to give it a quick roll just to make sure it is completely flattened. Now I do want to stretch the image a little bit, so let me just pick this up off the tile. It is quite warm here today, so my clay is quite warm. There we go. Then just clean that up, and I'm going to move it to a piece of paper, and this needs to be about that size. So I'm just going to take my roller and gently stretch it out evenly. You need to roll in both directions so that the pattern reduces out evenly. And I'm doing this on a piece of paper because then I can lift it up, and it also will make sure that the back stays a nice matte finish, so that we don't have to sand that when it comes to finishing off our bowl later. And there we go, that didn't take too long, and that's just about where I'm going to cut it. Now, the next step is optional because the back looks just fine the way it is, but I would like it to match a little bit on the front. So I'm going to be using my koi fish silkscreen, the one that matches the texture stamp on the back, to give it just a little bit extra of a pattern. But I'm first just removing some of the little bits of leaf that got on the back here. So the way to do that is to just use your thin blade again and just use that to shave that off, and that will just about do. Then I'm going to bring over that silk screen. Here it is. It's more detailed than the texture, and I am going to make sure that it faces the correct direction, putting these down in just about the same spot. Okay, and again, this is optional. The back would look just fine the way it is. And I'm going to use white acrylic paint to just apply that across the back. Just regular white acrylic paint. And you don't need a lot. And just scrape that a couple times over the back to get a nice, clean, even finish. Okay, there we go. Then I'll lift that up and clean the silk screen immediately. Okay, and then once that's dry, then you can flip it over and cut out your bowl. And you can use any bowl shape you want. I'm going to be using this rounded rectangle, and I'm going to position it so that I can get both of the fish. Okay, and because I'm cutting this on a piece of paper, it probably will stick in the cutter. That's fine though, because this will again maintain that nice matte finish on the back. And I'm just going along and making sure that I press this the whole way around the edge, because this is quite a large cutter and it can be difficult to get even pressure. And this is all fantastic scrap that you can use. There's still a blend in the middle there that can get mixed and matched with a bunch of different things, and so keep that. Then just take that and just gently pat your finger around the edge to get rid of the last little bit of fluff from the cutter. Okay, and there's how the back looks. Okay, then I'm going to take that, and the way that you're going to bake this is you're going to grab two, you can use blocks of wood, you can use a bowl. If you have a bowl that is the correct shape, then that is the best way to go, but I don't, so I'm grabbing two blocks of wood. I've got a piece of paper. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this and I'm going to place that between the pieces of paper, and I'm going to bring the wood up far enough to create a dome, and that is what's going to dome the piece. Now this will probably push the wood out, so you'll want something resting here to make sure that they stay in place. You also want to make sure that it is an even dome, so make sure that these are straight when you put them in the oven. And because you're baking on a piece of paper, it will again maintain that matte finish. However, if you have a dish that can give you the correct shape, you can also place it in that and then bake it. This is going to get baked for a full hour at Primo's recommended temperature. And then once it's done, I'm going to do a little bit of sanding and apply the feet. That is what we're going to be using the scraps for. Okay, and here's how it looks once it's cooled and out of the oven. Okay. And at this point I still need to pop the foot on so that it's stable, but you can see it's given a nice dome. And I think this one, what I'm going to make it into is a chopstick holder. I think that would look quite nice, especially with the shape of the bowl. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this little long rectangle cutter, and that is what I'm going to use to create the foot because it matches quite nicely with the shape. And I'm going to use these scrap pieces that I've got. I don't need to use all of it, just some of them. And what I'm going to do, these are the bits that were chopped off around the edge of the Mokume Gane before I shaved it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that, chop it into a couple of pieces and stack it like so. Then just bundle that into a log, pressing it all together, give it a roll, and you can use any clay you want. You could just use a plain piece of black if you wanted. You could use those little mica frills that you have left over from shaving the Mokume Gane. Use anything that you want, but this I'm going to use. Okay. And just going to again pop that into a solid piece of clay, and this will kind of give a marbled cane that I can work with. Okay, then I'm going to just chop the end, and it's just going to give you a general marbled effect. And I'm going to cut slices that are about the right thickness for the foot of the piece. And I'm going to just chop them because they're not quite the right length, and I don't want them mirrored, so just make sure that you don't do that unless you want them mirrored. Okay, check that that's the right length. It is. Bring over a piece of paper to work on before moving on to the next step. Just pop that there, and then just give it a quick burnish to get all those pieces stuck together. And this is quite a thick piece of clay. I'd say at least 3mm thick, so your cutter is probably going to stick in it. So I'm actually going to cut this on the tile so that it provides a little bit of resistance when I cut. So I'm just going to burnish that onto the tile so that it sticks. Okay, then when you cut, go in and cut only about halfway, then lift the cutter up, give it a little bit of a wipe with a baby wipe to clean off the clay residue, and then go in and cut again, and that will help it stop from sticking in the cutter because this is quite narrow. So, and it, again, as I said, it's quite thick, so that is just something to keep in mind. Then I lift that off the tile and just smooth along the edges to remove any fluff. I'm going to bring this over, and I'm going to use a little bit of translucent liquid clay. Any translucent liquid clay you have on hand will work. This is Kato, but Sculpey will work as well. Just going to flip that over, and I am going to pop the liquid clay onto the flat part of the piece that I've cut out, not onto the dish, because I'm not sure exactly where I want to place this, and I'd rather not eyeball that, so I'll stick it onto this instead. Okay, and then place that down, and then move it around and make sure that it's in the correct spot, like that. Definitely not in the right spot. Okay. And once you're fussed with it and are happy, then you can go in just with a baby wipe and clean up the liquid clay that might have been around the edges, and it will only be a tiny bit, so it'll be easy to clean up. Then just stick that onto the surface, and again bring over a piece of paper because that's what it's going to get baked on. And you're going to take that, place that down, and press down so that you flatten out that piece of clay so that it creates a stable foot, because it will have a slight dome on the surface when you first cut it, and that's why I've got it on a piece of paper, because then it will have a nice matte finish. Okay, and then just pop that down, and if it sits nicely and you're happy with it, pop that into the oven for about half an hour, and then we're good to garnish. Okay, and then once it's out of the oven and cooled, you're ready to seal it. And you could use this as a what was I saying? A chopstick holder, but I was thinking this would actually work quite well in the craft area for holding things such as your craft knife or your brushes, especially if the brushes need to dry off. I thought that this actually would be a nice addition to the craft area. So those are some ideas to think of. Now I'm just going to grab a thick brush, and I'm using Varathane water-based gloss varnish. It's a floor finish and is the gloss varnish that I use. And I'm just going to apply a decent coat to my piece, and I am going to apply 2 coats so that I get a nice glossy finish. So just apply a thin coat, let it dry, and then apply another coat, and then I'm also going to apply a coat to the back. And you want to give it about 15 minutes between each coat. And there we go. That's how it looks after 2 coats have been applied to the front and the sides, and then a coat has been applied to the back. And yeah, that is pretty much it. That's all you really need to do. So yeah, this dish can be used as a regular trinket dish. It could also be used as a tool rest. I was thinking it'd be a nice place to dry brushes if you wanted to. I'm probably going to have it hanging around my workspace. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Would you be interested in making a trinket dish in this kind of shape? It's a little unusual where it's kind of flat with just 2 sloped sides rather than the usual circular dome. But yeah. Also, if you have requests for tutorials you'd like to see in the future, let me know in the comments. I get to them as soon as possible. Also, if you have questions, leave them there as well, and I'll get to them too. And if you like the video, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing, as that helps the channel out. And if you'd like to support it further, please consider becoming a member and clicking the join button below this video. Or there is also my Patreon membership. They're both one and the same, where I post exclusive videos that are not available on YouTube. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I do hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.